Okay, guys, it's time to get down and dirty. Let me just tell you guys what I'm doing right now. I'm planning to design my own super machine that can cut fabric with a laser. It can sew, it can embroider, it can cut foam. It can paint canvas, oil paintings. That's pretty much it. And right now I'm analyzing a special type of sewing where, unlike with a bobbin where you have like a little tiny spool of thread and the needle passes through and then the bobbin like goes through and then the needle comes up and then a string's running along the bottom and then the string's going in through the top and just twists around the one on the bottom. The problem with that is that little bobbin only holds what, like 100 feet of thread? That's unacceptable. You pretty much have to keep reloading that bobbin like 10 times a day. And if you're having things going really quickly, I mean, you'd have to reload that thing like once every half hour. So, in order to address that, the most expensive industrial machines take a giant spool of thread this big for the top thread and for the bottom thread, and then through some crazy engineering wizardry manage to interlock things at the bottom as the needle comes down and then comes back up. They're like twisting and doing stuff and just creating a knot. And then it comes back up and it's locked off. And then it goes down, gets all tied up, comes back up, gets locked off. And so you have a huge spool of thread for the top and a huge spool of thread for the bottom. There is no bobbin. And that is brilliant. And that's what I've got to have. That way I have enough thread to sew literally all day long for a week without ever even looking at the machine. It could sew for a whole week. So in order to understand that, there's no content online at all. There's nothing on YouTube. Hi KPVG. There's nothing on YouTube. There's nothing on any websites. It's just not covered at all. But that is the brilliance of the patent system. If you hunt down the patent, and everything's patented on this earth, you can find out how to make it. The whole point of the patent system is that for somebody skilled in the art or an engineer, they should be able to look at the written descriptions in the drawings and be able to reproduce what the patent describes. So I'm looking to design my own machine copying the patent. I'm not mass producing, so it's not patent infringement. It's perfectly okay to produce a patented object for your own use, not to sell. These types of machines cost, I don't know, like $5,000. I'm looking to make the machine for under a budget of like $10. What I'm going to be doing today is beginning the process of creating a very detailed animation of exactly what needs to happen. And then using that, I'm going to ultimately develop the machine. I still haven't written out all the design plans though in my to-do list, so I think I'll do that before I get started on that. Let's see. I'll just read out loud the plans for the machine. It's a CNC machine. Well, actually, I'm gonna keep the plans a secret. I mean, I'll show you guys a lot, but I'm not gonna. I don't know if I should say everything. Well, maybe I should. Alright, I'll keep out certain details. It's a CNC machine, but it's a simpler design than I've ever come up with before, with an extremely tiny form factor. It will sit just to the right of my chair, next to my bed. It will be 7 feet tall. The fabric I want to cut is approximately 6 feet tall. Not only cut, but work with. So it's going to have a 6 feet by 1,000 feet workspace. So I could actually work with 6 feet by 1,000 feet of fabric. That's a large sheet of fabric, and it can. So every square inch of that 6 feet by 1,000 feet, it can also embroider every square inch of that. It can paint every square inch of that, and it can laser cut every square inch of that. All within a form factor that fits right here next to my chair. The form factor is 6 feet tall, and then approximately 7 inches by 7 inches. So 7 by 7 by 6 feet. It works by scroll wheels. So its printhead is composed of an embroidery sewing head, a normal sewing head, 3 different types of paintbrushes of different size, fine, medium, and large, for doing artistic paintings, and then a laser cutter. All those heads will move just like the head of a 3D printer in unison together in the vertical direction. So that's my, we'll call it y-axis. And then the x-axis is achieved just by having a scroll wheel feed the fabric through. The exact same concept of how paper is fed through a printer. The printer just moves left and right, but the paper moves through in the y direction. The printer only moves in x. So I'm basically copying the exact same thing as a standard like inkjet or laser printer, but instead of paper, I'm having it be, you know, your 3-yard standard roll of fabric uncut from the factory, just a huge 3-yard roll of fabric, the 3 yards vertical by like 1,000 yards or whatever it is lengthwise, a huge roll can just feed through this thing. And instead of printer ink coming out like an inkjet or a laser in a laser printer, instead of that, little paintbrushes can be used painting it. And instead of that, lasers can be used to cut it as it moves left and right. So it won't just move from right to left across it. It will move from right to left and back again. So it will move from right to left and left to right. So that way the laser can, for example, cut as it passes across, the laser will cut, and then the laser can move down, and then it can pass back this way, and the laser will be cutting, and then the laser can move back up to cut out a square. The laser can also cut foam, by the way. I can put foam sheets through this thing. Any questions? That's pretty much it. It's pretty simple, right? All right. The CNC machine is back, but is simpler design than ever with extremely tiny form factor. It will sit just to the right of my chair, next to my bed, and be 7 feet tall. Fabric is 3 yards tall. Every head, 6 to 7 heads, will be as one stacked linear. Heads all joined together as a single unit, with only one head doing anything while the rest are just resting, but they all are to move as one together. Heads are laser cutter head, upholstery sewing head, embroidery sewing head, paintbrush head thick, paintbrush head thin, paintbrush head medium. The vertical working shaft is bordered on both sides by laser printer-esque rolling wheels, which can feed fabric forward and backward in X direction across the vertical working heads, just like a printer. And so their spacing is only 3 to 4 inches on either side of the center working head, which means the width and length and X and Y is only, say, 8 inches by 10 inches and Y with Z being 8 feet. Okay, so I called it Z. Yeah, that's how it is with 3D printing. Which is real estate in a room that doesn't matter. It's just airspace. Yeah, so the height doesn't matter, but the X and Y would really matter. The width and length. So these rollers on each side of the unit will feed fabric in X, and the vertical X actuator will be a steel linear actuator chain with no give that can raise and lower the different heads. I'm staying away from screw drive since they're way slower and the chains way slower than chains always, and we need speed in the long term. Velcro rolls can feed into special marked channels that indicate the height, and we feed that through, and it feeds through along the fabric, getting sewn in as it goes. The laser cutter even cuts it off mostly as it cuts the perimeters of the fabric, but it doesn't cut it all the way since we need it to stay with the fabric and not fall out fully. So, in other words, the laser cutter forms perforations, sort of, that are easy to snip away to complete the cut after the work has been done. We could snip the little sections of uncut fabric with scissors at the end to release it. Meanwhile, it just gathers finish to the left of the multi-printer. That's what I'm calling a multi-printer, so to speak. So the laser does the cutting of perimeters. Then we have these custom sewing and embroidery heads that feed through and get picked up on the back end by a bobbin. Nope. Back end by a double locked chain stitch as per US Patent 5154130. The advantage to this type of stitching method is you don't have to use bobbins, so you can have a gigantic industrial size spool of thread on the top and bottom, and not need to reload a spool for weeks at a time. Heck, for months at a time. despite near constant sewing all month. The basic premise of this is that the bottom spool loops and intertwines creatively with the top spool thread that came down without requiring the top thread that came down to wrap around a full bobbin, like the normal bobbin way. Note that in order for the bottom receiving end yeah, I know about T-slot and V-slot aluminum. It's expensive though, I wouldn't use it. Note that in order for the bottom receiving end to do its thing properly, it has to move independently from the top and be perfectly aligned when it is go time. It will need its own chain for vertical motion in sync with the top heads, and it can be made to match up with the top heads by needles coming up through the fabric and entering alignment holes to ensure perfect alignment. If they don't go into the holes, the machine will move it slightly and try again over and over till the needles enter the holes, proving the vertical alignment is flawless. I've spoken on the laser cutter. And the needles. And the Velcro. It covers all sewing and embroidery. And cutting. Now, a side note, the laser will also be able to cut foam sheeting I feed through. Next is the 3 paint brushes. These will move obviously in vertical the direction, and the canvas can scroll left and right as usual. The paints will be stored in horizontal cups at the bottom and can be dipped in to load paint, and a water cup will also be down there with the various paints. I will have to open up the paints and prep the water cup prior to a paint job. It will also have a mixing area to mix up custom paints. A webcam will assist in paint mixing, dipping, etc. with a feedback loop and computer vision. And the brushes can clean in the water cup and dry off on a paper towel. Or however you clean with oil paints, supposing we go that route. The webcam will also guide the brush strokes and ensure they look right and clean when compared with the planned strokes map created from the source image using algorithms similar to the Adobe Photoshop paint stroke filter. The brushes will be able to scroll in the Y direction like a gantry via their holder having a little motor and letting them change orientation and height from canvas or mixing cup or whatever. So they will be 4-axis really. X, comma, Y, comma, Z, comma, and yaw. What is neat about this setup is that a 6-foot by 12-foot painting is enormous and would sell for a lot, and it can pull those huge sizes despite being such a small form factor machine that fits right next to my office chair. I never even have to get up to do maintenance on it. Alright guys, any questions? But yeah, I'm for sure going to build that machine, guys. It's on. That machine actually kind of encapsulates a lot of big dreams of mine and will make me a fortune. And no, I will not be going on Shark Tank to sell my machine because it's a one-of-a-kind machine. It's not a machine I'm going to be mass producing. This machine is a mass producer of products that I can sell online. But the machine is a means to an end to create other products. The machine is not the product. Basically, my aim here, to simplify it, too long, didn't read, I'm looking to create machines of automation to speed up the manufacturing of products that I sell. Now, my humanoid robot will go a long way toward automation of manufacturing of anything I can imagine, anything I'd want to sell. But that's not here yet, and it's taking forever. And I really believe that this particular machine doesn't overlap too much with what the robot would be good at. And I don't think it's that complex a machine. I think it's something very doable and something I should do. And so I'm going to do it, man. It's game on. I'm excited because the CNC machine idea solves a lot of like present problems and also opens up a door to an idea that has long ago been kind of shelved. Not really shelved, but like it's just been on hold for so long, for years and years and years and years and years, and it was like one of my best ideas ever. It's really the idea that created the name you see my stream has, Art by Robot. My original idea behind Robotics was I wanted to be an artist and paint paintings and sell paintings. And I was convinced that that would take too long. So then my idea was, well, then I'll just create a robot that paints paintings, and I'll sell the robot painted paintings, but I'll sell them as if I hand painted them, because who's going to know the difference if a robot painted it or I painted it? And people wouldn't pay a lot if they knew it was basically press a button and the painting pops out. So they'll pay a lot if they think that it was hand painted, which it wasn't, but it kind of was. I mean, it's not like a precision thing as much as a printer, but it just creates the illusion of a hand painted look, which people will pay more for. So I don't know if that's morally ambiguous. I don't know, but I mean, they don't call me Larry the Scammer for nothing. It is a painting scam. Wait until Mailbox finds out the real origin of the name Art by Robot. My dreams are alive and well, and I'm all the more confident that they're going to become a reality by the fact that I do make a very respectable income online. And that pretty much ensures I can keep doing what I do. If my lifestyle changed drastically, I no longer had time to develop ideas and build companies, then my dreams would also fall away. So the key is to get enough income working from home to be able to keep working from home part-time while having a lot of time still left over to work on building up these dream projects.